And our special series continues on Wednesday with the disappearance of Janine Vaughan. Environmental and technological change was front of mind on day one of the State Mining Conference. But Minister Don Harwin emphasised coal will remain an important part of our energy mix.
For anybody unsure whether coal was here to stay, Minister Don Harwin offered this promising outlook.
The coal industry will still have an important part to play in the generation of power in New South Wales for some time to come,
even as we gradually transition away from burning it toward renewables.
Securing an integration of climate and energy policy at COAG Energy Council is the most important thing we can do.
More than 500 people are attending the Sellout Conference this year.
It's an important event for the mining industry, particularly for the hunter mining industry.
Most agree technology continues to reshape the workforce, improving safety, as always, the priority.
For example, automation generally involves taking workers out of potentially harmful environments and putting them to work somewhere where they are at less risk.
Work government and industry both say is never complete.
Making sure that our people go home safely at night is always a very big focus for our sector.
One death or one serious injury is one too many.
Sam Burbury, NBN News.
According to Lake Macquarie Council, there's another good reason to visit the Warners Bay foreshore. Work has just been completed on a fitness trail along almost a kilometre of the lakefront in the hope of promoting an active lifestyle. It features multi-bench and sit-up stations, plus full-body exercise equipment designed to cater for all ages and abilities. Coming up next, no survivors. A vintage tourist plane crashes in the Swiss Alps.
If you can see danger coming, you can stop it. At Specsavers, our optometrists can detect a range of health conditions before they become big issues. Every standard eye test includes free digital retinal photography to examine the back of your eye. So seriously, you should go to Specsavers. Book a full eye examination today.
A run-out happens when new cars are on the way. Which is good news for you, because it means your Ford dealer has to clear stock. So you'll get a great deal on an Escape. With tech like this. Read message. See you soon.
Ford's best ever run-out is on. And until September 30, get a low 0.9% finance rate on Escape run-out models. And a standard 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty.
At Lazyboy Furniture Gallery's massive winter price drop. With discounts store-wide, like 25% off all lounge suites and 30% off all recliners, Nordic and lift chairs. Hurry into Hawkins, Katara and Rutherford now.
Geeks, do you save my life?
I just saved his hard drive. Had a virus.
Is there anything they can't do?
If we can't fix something, you don't pay.
Geeks to you, saviors to me.
Call 1300-GEEKS-2U and we'll come to you.
So, Jules, how much did you save? I saved $202 switching to UE. $202? Fantastic!
Real people, real savings. Try UE. You can save lots. Call 13UE or go to UE.com.au.
The joy of travelling the world is now on sale for 1 week only. For incredible deals on all international flights, be sure to book before midnight Sunday at Webjet.
If we don't deliver this package, Vivian, a lot of people are gonna die. We're legit spies now. We're too bad. Who saved the world? Oh, you're so pretty. No, everybody likes compliments.
We needed to restore our floors for our new restaurant. Electrodry. We're able to do it quickly and at the right price. We are really happy with the result.
Restore with Electrodry. Electrodry.
What?
Suncorp Everyday Options account means you can auto-manage your money. It lets you automatically split your pay with up to 9 higher interest sub-accounts to budget for things like a holiday, renovations, even your happy money, which makes spending and saving awesome. Open an account online in just 5 minutes.
This is awesome.
A sightseeing joy flight has ended in tragedy in Switzerland when a vintage World War II aircraft crashed into the Alps, killing all 20 people on board. The investigation made more difficult because the historic plane wasn't fitted with a black box flight recorder.
Only the tail of the Duair aircraft remains intact, a sign authorities say of a terrifying final descent. 17 tourists had been enjoying the sights of the Alps from the 3-engine propeller plane when trouble struck.
Aufgrund.
The plane hit the ground almost vertically and at a relatively high speed. It took off from Switzerland's Locarno airport, bound for Dubendorf near Zurich, crashing into a mountain called Piz Segnar. The pilots were both aged in their 60s, both with many years of military and commercial aviation experience. What can be almost excluded is that there was a collision with another aircraft or an obstacle. The aircraft was a Junker J-52, built in 1939. It served as a bomber in World War II, a star of aviation history and Hollywood. Featured here as the getaway plane in Clint Eastwood's 1968 action film Where Eagles Dare. Since the 1980s, it's been used for sightseeing tours. Today's was fully booked. The victims were aged between 42 and 84, all Swiss, apart from an Austrian couple travelling with their son. Now, the search for answers, focusing on a recent maintenance check and whether the vintage aircraft should still have been in the air.
What began as a bout of road rage has ended in an all-out brawl. A 25-year-old driver has fronted court accused of assaulting a father and his 2 sons before threatening to kill the entire family.
He's accused of talking tough on the streets, and today more foul language from Douglas Al-Jumani. You threatened to kill that family?
No, I'm not going to kill family.
This is the 25-year-old's car dumped last night on Marlborough Street, where he allegedly unleashed on a complete stranger who supposedly took too long to cross the road. Police say 51-year-old Majid Mashidi was followed into his front yard and repeatedly punched in the face. The victim's 2 young sons stepped in to help before throwing fists in self-defence.
People are coming from a house, they're coming out of a house and going towards I think the person that drove off the car as well.
Al-Jumani is accused of making more violent threats even after his arrest. A court told he yelled in Arabic, "I'll kill you, I will kill every one of your family members, I know where you live." He denies it all, and so does his girlfriend, who wound up injured herself. Has Douglas done this to anyone?
No.
Or is he the victim here?
No.
Douglas Al-Jumani only lives around the corner from his alleged victims, who are now too scared to even leave their home. One of the conditions of his release, though, is that he doesn't come anywhere near this street or anyone involved. He'll be monitored closely by police when he reports for bail 3 times a week. Tiffany Genders, NBN News.
Banks and insurers have felt the heat, and today the Royal Commission began to shine a light on Australia's $2.6 trillion superannuation industry. It quickly concluded the temptation of easy money can affect those you trust to manage your retirement savings.
It's a simple question about the people who look after your super.
What happens when we leave these trustees alone in the dark with our money?
The Royal Commission heard there are gaps in regulation where it's unclear which regulator, ASIC or APRA, is responsible for overseeing the trustees.
When in view, there is not presently a dedicated conduct regulator for superannuation trustees in Australia.
Up until now, there's been no body representing the interests of consumers.
With $2.6 trillion in super and growing, the Royal Commission heard the obvious.
Of course, trustees are surrounded by temptation.
Like
like the temptation to charge you more, or to charge you but not deliver services, or to siphon off funds for mates in industry associations or in trade unions, or to use your funds to bag the other side, like the controversial ad campaign where the banks were the fox in your superannuation henhouse. Regulator APRA okayed that ad, but the Royal Commission is now looking.
How does it maintain retirement benefits?
The Royal Commission heard the case of one NAB member charged fees of $892 on a simple cash investment that earned $1,013. They were left with just $121. The bank charged the same for the cash investment as a high-risk, higher-cost investment.
If you're invested in a no-risk at all investment option like cash with a much lower return, you'll still be charged 1.05%. That's correct.
Which some say is against the spirit of super, where trustees must always act for the best interest of the member.
They have to maximise returns to their shareholders, but also to the members of the retail funds they run.
Quite often the fees that you're paying doesn't mean you're going to get the best outcome.
It all goes to the heart of this Royal Commission's inquiries.
Can they be trusted to do the right thing?
Ross Greenwood, NBN News.
To finance and most of the Australian market finished up today. Newcastle-based health insurer NIB rose nearly 4%. Investor concerns about its QBE travel acquisition apparently easing. Materials and telecommunications were the best performing sectors. BHP, Galaxy Resources and Telstra all closing higher. Employment website operator Seek was an exception, shedding almost 9% despite reaffirming its guidance. To commodities, gold is trading slightly lower while oil is edging higher. And the Aussie dollar was down slightly on the US dollar. It was a similar story against the pound and the yen. Now it's over to Gavin Morris with a quick look at our weather. And Gav, as we saw earlier, some rare inland rain today.
Yes, that's right. We had a nice big rain band make its way across western New South Wales. Up over the slopes, there was some okay falls. We had about 10 millimetres, 10 to 15 around Scone, Murrurundi, Nundle to Tamworth. But that rain band is now clearing and there's nothing in behind it. So the big dry is set to continue for another week, and we're going to struggle to have significant rain for most of the month, I would say. All of your local details headed your way a little later.
Thanks, Gav. Ahead, a breakthrough by Australian doctors to save premature babies. Also, we meet some ladies behind the game as the NRL honours women in league. But next, a curious humpback gives a mid-north coast paddleboarder the fright of his life.